the fourth level of the innovation I want to talk about is what I would call the system level innovation, which is try to address big problems in the ecosystem to make things work. So I want to use one of the foundation programs, which is also my personal favorite program, to make the point. So the program I'm going to talk about is what we call the financial services for the poor. So when we say for the poor, the definition for low income for the poor is actually daily income under $2. So maybe your immediate reaction is, okay, if you're only earning $2 a day, why would you need financial services, right? Why would you need to have any wealth management tools, right? You just keep the money in your pocket. But the reality is actually the contrary, right? It's exactly because you're poor, you're receiving only earning $2 a day and not $2 every day, right? So the income stream is also very unpredictable. Because of that, the poorer population are actually much more vulnerable to financial shocks, right? Financial shocks, for example, if there is someone who got really sick, or if the bread earner in the house suddenly died, or there are many financial shocks that these people have to go through. And then there has been research, right, to track the poor households in different parts of the world. And then what it turns out is, to my surprise when I first read it, was actually they transact all the time. They transact all the time, right? The transaction volumes happen very frequently. Two is, the volume that they transact is actually multiple times of their earnings. So they have to make things juggle, right? And three is, at any single time, any household will have multiple financial tools that they're using to actually help them make the ends meet. But then because they don't have access to the formal financial services that we're all very comfortable with, like bankings and this and that, it's actually expensive to be poor, right? Can you imagine you have to pay 10% of your money to someone who takes your savings? So this is what's happening to the poor population, right? So in a way, improving their access to financial services will help them to manage the risk in their lives much better, will help them to get on to the middle income faster. And all of this is possible now because the availability of digital technology, right, and which wasn't available, if you think about it, like 10 or 15 years ago. And because of the availability of digital technology, the transaction cost is actually significantly lower than before. So data is very encouraging, right? Over the past 5 years, actually 500 million more population now have access to financial services, now largely because of the availability of digital financial services. But still, the world, if you look at the world, right, there are still 2 billion adults who do not have any access to financial services. So what do we do with them? And even in China, right, if you look at the bottom of the pyramid, there are still 200 million people, right, who do not have any form of financial services. So to actually, solve that problem, there are actually many system level work that needs to be done. It's not just okay, here is your phone, download the app and you have financial services. It doesn't work like that. So from foundations, financial service strategy, we're really looking for ways not only on technologies and innovation and cool apps, but really looking at beyond that at the what are the enablers that can actually make it sustainable, right? So making innovations is easy, but making it sustainable is much more harder. So at the foundation, when we look at the financial inclusions, we're really trying to address it at the 3 levels, right? So the first level is actually regulatory. So in the focus countries that we're working in, we're working very closely with the central banks to actually help them create a better regulatory environment that on the one hand manages risk, but on the other hand actually encourages innovations. So China has done a fantastic job. I was with Tencent yesterday, so they were telling me, right, the central banks will, we actually, when the new services like the Tencent and Alipay became available, they in a way they took a step back, right? They didn't actually interfere immediately. They let it grow, let it scale up, and then in a way learn together with the industry. And then they come back and then say, okay, where we can help you to put in the right regulatory framework. So it's a very good balance. But then it's not so in many other countries that in the developing world. Some countries have a strong favor for banks. Some markets are a little bit more open-minded. So anyway, so at the regulatory level, there is a lot to be done to actually create the right regulatory environment for the players. So that's the first one. And then the second level of the challenges is around infrastructure, especially interoperability. So this is really, there are multiple, for example, in Kenya, there are multiple telco operators like anywhere else. So if every telco runs on its own technology platform, then it will be impossible for customers of different telcos to actually transact with each other, right? So that's super inconvenient. But then, there is no incentive for any single operator to say, okay, I want to invest in an open platform that's available to all my competitors, right? So nobody wants to do that. And that's why Foundation created a project that we call Level 1, which is to create that leveling field and infrastructure platform for the operators. And so we're working with Ericsson and with Huawei to create that open platform to solve the infrastructure technology level interoperability challenges. And then the third level is, what services do you put on? Because eventually to make it sustainable, the operators, the financial service providers need to be profitable, right? And to make it profitable, you need to have the right service portfolios that consumers really want. So understanding, working with the telcos and the service providers to understand what poor people want, and then put the right services is actually very critical to actually make the ecosystem sustainable in future. So we have, from the foundation's point of view, we and our partners are really working together to address all three level of the system level challenges, using innovation and innovative thinking. Right?